You break your mic?
I did. Welcome to Popcorned Planet. I am Andy Signore. I'm waiting for a new mic. I thought it was going to come today, but they didn't ship it till tomorrow. So hopefully it'll work tonight. But thank you guys for bearing with me. So happy to have an amazing Nerd Wars. Tonight man, I've been waiting for this one. I've been waiting for this Nerd War. But I realized I need to step out of this one. I'm going to try and bring my judging skills back. I'm going to try and be as unbiased as possible. Honestly, guys, I didn't hate this movie, but I also didn't love this movie. I am very actually in the middle. I know a lot of people think I'm just a Snyder hater. I'm not. I'm really not. I have issues with it, but I thought certain parts were cool. So I thought I'm going to try and stay out of this fight. I'm going to bring in two fighters on each side, and we're going to have a free-for-all on the main topic, which is the Snyder Cut. Was it worthy? Now, I want to take out all the other stuff, the movement, the cause, the fan base, the good version of the fan base, the bad version of the fan base. No, tonight we're talking about the movie itself, the 4-hour, 2-minute cut that Zack Snyder finally released. If we can take everything away, ignore everything else, which I know is hard for a lot of fans, and we focus strictly creatively on the movie and what we saw, was it worthy? That's going to be the fight today. We got some amazing guests today. I'm so happy to have here on the panel. We got two that loved it and two that didn't. What's up, fellas? Thank you for being here.
What up?
What up?
So many amazing people on the thank you guys so much for so many amazing people here on the channel. Some debuts tonight, which I'm excited about. The team on top who will be fighting for Zack Snyder and the Snyderverse. We got Dylan Landon. What's up from Dylan Landon Live? How you doing, man?
Oh my God, I'm still wiping the tears of joy. Justice has finally been served. Let's get it.
Justice has been served. On your team, Dylan, you got Kobe from Gotham Knights Pain. What's up, Kobe?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Great to be here.
Happy to have. So you're also a fan.
Big fan, big DC fan. My channel is more based around DC video games. At least it has been in the last couple years. I really blew up at the height of the Batman Arkham games, and obviously a huge fan of the movies as well. And I love the Snyder Cut.
There we go. All right, awesome. And neither of you're not like so hardcore Snyder fans that you're going to ignore it. You can focus strictly on the movie itself.
I did bump into him once at a valet, and
disqualified. Disqualified.
I
No,
walked.
he's in
I
too
had a walk and
close.
talk with him. It was cool. It was pretty cool.
Favoritism.
Well,
So
you guys
basically
know
you're saying you're paid.
You guys
You're,
know
paid
Vito
show.
already on the bottom. Vito is here to hate on the movie. What a
Hello.
surprise, Vito! You're here to hate on something.
I like some things.
You liked
All right,
WandaVision,
look.
actually. Yeah, you were loving it.
I liked WandaVision.
There
I
you
fought
go.
for WandaVision.
Everybody
Very
likes
controversial.
WandaVision.
No, I didn't like WandaVision.
Not some of these.
I didn't like it. I
Andy
liked Captain
Signore.
America and the Winter, or what's it called? Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I thought was fantastic. I didn't like WandaVision.
I still haven't watched. I have
It's
to watch
good.
it. It came out like 2
I
years
guess
ago,
I'm
right?
in the minority. So not everybody loved it. People are still waiting.
Oh,
Next, joining
I'm
you, Vito. So happy to have Ian Simmons from Kicking the Seat Movie Reviews. What's up, Ian? Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. This is really exciting. I'm excited to have the opportunity to talk about this particular version of this conversation because, as you've sort of alluded to, there's a lot of conversations happening around this movie. Not all of them dealing with the film itself, so this is going to be good.
Yeah, and I found Ian actually on Rotten Tomatoes. I looked for people who gave it a rotten review fairly, like felt like they weren't being like crazy mean about it, but just here's why I didn't like it. So I'm glad I found you there. That's how a lot of people, we got different viewpoints here. That's why I thought this could be a fun conversation. Not always all my regulars. We got some new people, new blood in here to give this movie a fair shot, and that's what we're going to do tonight. Let's talk about it fairly. Let's not try to do any low blows. I'm looking at you, Vito, but who knows?
Well, I don't low blow. What do I low blow?
That's why I like. We're not getting into the drama of it. We're not getting into the Snyder cult. We're not getting into any of it, okay?
This guy is
We're-
best friends with Zack Snyder, but fine. Hanging out with him at the valet.
he's hanging at
but I can't say nothing about it.
There, you got to deal with it, man. You got to deal with it. All right, there we go. And I make sure I have everything here. Why is this not? There we go. Is that loading?
Also on
properly?
tonight's stream is Zack Snyder's mom. Oh, no favoritism there.
Careful. You'll have to deal with it, man. All right. Hey, we got it all open. Everyone knows now how this is going to work. All right. So I'm going to, Uzziah, I see you already. If you can help me make for the end of the show, make a straw poll to help me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my verdict, but I will let you guys overrule me with the fan poll because I know a lot of people think I'm biased. And I didn't announce that earlier, so the Snyder army didn't come just bomb the reviews. So we'll hopefully have a fair review. I'll give you my fair review, and then you guys will offer your take at the end. Any questions before we begin? We're going to have the first team, the Snyder team, start us. Then we'll have Ian and Vito in the anti-cut version. We're not going to go anti-Zach, anti-cut. And then you guys will respond, and then we'll turn it into a free-for-all. All right. Anybody, any questions before we begin? All right. Then it sounds like...
Let them fight.
1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a nerd war.
Woo! All right, we're back. I got my let them fight. I'm bringing it back, taking it from movie fights, and I'm using it here. Love me some Ken Watanabe. It's my idea, so it's mine. All right, we got the bell. Ken Watanabe is back on these Nerd Wars. Are we ready to begin? Time starts. Nerd War. Let's start with Dylan and Kobe. Dylan, I'll just help you. Dylan, you'll begin. You guys have, let's try and give about a minute each. Minute total, 30 seconds each to give us your openings, and then we'll go over to Ian and Vito, and we'll go from there. All right, begin.
What an absolute complete film. Just an epic cinematic masterpiece. What I love about Zack Snyder's direction of movies is he really makes these like art films at a huge budget. The fact that this film was tonally for an adult, which kids can enjoy, of course, just says how much he appreciates like the audience's sensibility. To sit there for 4 hours and basically just revel in every detail of the music. Man of Steel score came back. Amazing. Just that alone makes the film phenomenal. And to use the art, when the Flash was moving fast and you saw like Superman's inside of his skin, you're never going to get that in any sort of other film. So the fact that this tone was like for an adult to enjoy was fantastic. I can sit there forever and enjoy a comic book movie that takes it this seriously, more so like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones than it is other comic book movies out there. So I really appreciate that. And it was just such a film with a strong through line with Cyborg Ray Fisher really bringing the gravitas, fantastic actor, and his storyline I thought was great. Now, what's amazing about Zack Snyder's kind of world he creates, Diana Gal Gadot can thrive actually in this because watching her Wonder Woman, she's not the best actor. In this film, she's amazing to watch. Amber Heard is amazing to watch. That's the skill that Zack Snyder brings to his movie making. And so that's just a little taste of what I want to dive into a little. But the ability to bring the best out of the actors and the storyline, just loved it.
Love it. Okay. It's the first time I think you'll ever hear Amber Heard in a positive light. So we're being that fair tonight. Kobe, your turn.
Yeah, Dylan, I totally agree with everything you just said. And kind of adding on top of that, this really is a complete film where you not only have this world-ending blockbuster flick with Darkseid and Apocalypse and everything going on there, but you also have these sort of like mini short films with all the character beats. One of the biggest problems with Justice League, and I know that I'm not comparing this film to the 2-hour theatrical cut, we're comparing it versus itself and whether it's a good movie. But I think that one of the biggest improvements that this film makes is that it actually adds character to the Flash and Cyborg and these other characters that get nothing in the theatrical cut. They're just kind of there. And in this film, you really understand their motives. You get to see a little bit more of what's going on with the Flash and his father being in prison. You really get to see a lot with Cyborg and his father, Silas Stone. And that's built up so much. And you really get to resonate with those characters. So you get these kind of like 20, 25-minute short films with Flash and Cyborg. They actually have a character build up there. And you also have a huge expansion of the plot with Darkseid and Steppenwolf, including that. And I don't know if we can get into spoilers in this. Are we allowed to? We'll get into that a little bit more, but obviously there's some huge surprises and Easter eggs for the hardcore DC fans in here as well that was not in the theatrical cut. So all in all, the film is just fantastic. It throws a few bones to the hardcore fans. It has great heart. I cried at one point in the film.
I cried 4 times.
Well, 4 times. Okay, you got me beat. But yeah, it's just incredible. It was so good, and it was even beyond what I was expecting it to be. I had high hopes, and Zach actually exceeded those.
Yeah, great. Well, there you go. All right, we have the pro side cried 5 times. If you add them together, that's a lot. I'd like to see how much the anti-cut side cried. We're going to start with you, Ian. Go ahead.
I cried 8 times, twice an hour, because it would not end. My issue, because the question at hand is, was this movie worth it? And my judgment is that it wasn't. I don't think there is a good version of this story, and that goes back to a lot of the old, was DC, Warner Brothers just trying to beat Marvel at their own game? This movie needed time. It needed other films to build up to it, and the films that we got were suffering from that same problem, which is they didn't have movies to build up to it to really establish recognizable versions of these characters that I, just speaking for me, cared about. I don't see Superman in this movie. I don't see Batman. I see, Dylan, you mentioned that this is a movie for adults about adult characters. I kind of disagree. I feel like this is a movie for high school kids who imagine this is what adults are like. People who got really obsessed with Frank Miller's Sin City or, Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns and think this is how it's going to be all the time. Sort of like the Watchmen thing, which, Zack Snyder directed that as well. But there's a lot of brooding, but there's no real humor except for the Flash, and he sticks out like a sore thumb. And, personally, I just don't care for Ezra Miller. So at the end of this, at the end of 4 hours, I walked away the same feeling as the Joss Whedon cut, which is it's just a waste of my time. There's nothing I'm learning here. It's not superior to anything I've seen in the other universes. It's not even superior to the other films I've seen from DC. And I think DC recognized that when they came out with Aquaman and Shazam, and yes, even Wonder Woman 1984, which went in a more positive, lighter direction, possibly aping Marvel, and I don't think that's a problem. Now that we're getting this movie, after those films came out a couple of years ago, it just seems like a big, hey, remember that? Here's 2 more hours of it, but we're still going to move on and forget about it.
Vito?
It's hard to talk about this movie. It really is. And I have a lot of thoughts on this movie, and some of them are not very kind. But I want to get back to this idea that this Frank Miller idea, because it brings up a very astute point, where if you have read things like Frank Miller's The Dark Knight, which is probably the origin of people taking a look at comic book characters and trying to see, are there real themes here? Are there real, deeper, darker human themes? Obviously, people have been trying to humanize comic characters before that. Was the first time that it was like, let's take Batman, a guy who's kind of a joke, and Adam West, goofball guy who runs around in a costume, and what really happens if that guy has something serious, is taking on serious issues, politics, whatever else. The problem with that is that Frank Miller, I think, handled that expertly, and he acknowledged the origin of the form, which is that comic book heroes are inherently goofy and weird, and the idea that a man's going to put on a costume and go fight aliens is an absurdity. And you have to acknowledge that absurdity. If you play it as a completely straight drama, what are we doing here? Not only do you play it as a completely straight drama, but you want me to endure it for 4 hours. This movie has very little lightheartedness, very little acknowledgement of the superhero origin, just as, again, funny books for children, which we have now found a way to, yes, expand upon them and make them into modern day myths. But you can't do this. I don't want to watch a bunch of people in funny costumes be miserable for 4 hours until they bring one of them back to life with a magic box. Like, of all the things, I find this to be a comedic farce of an experiment. Beautiful to watch. Zack Snyder's visual style is fantastic, but ultimately I have to look at this as a tragedy, the amount of money that went into completing this nightmare project.
Wow. Okay. With some strong opening words on both sides there. I like this. We're going to get to this. Now, I want to thank Gene Rick for the super chat. Thank you for starting to write. And I got to say, Michael Caratillo, between rounds, I will be coming to your super chats. If you want to add your own thoughts to this, please feel free to do that using the method below and to the mods who are sharing out there. Thank you. But Michael Caratillo wants to put this in the mix as well. $25 for people need to stop calling it a masterpiece. Let's start there. Is this a masterpiece? Is the film a masterpiece? Free for all. Go for it.
I think it's hard to call it a masterpiece if you're watching it on your television in 4:3. I think I would love to call it that. I think, to me, Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition, is a masterpiece. Man of Steel is the greatest superhero movie of all time. So obviously I love Zack Snyder's work. And I think if this was brought down to 3 hours, 3.5 hours with more a cohesion, enjoying it like a film, you can say it would be a masterpiece. But sitting on your HBO Max, getting through the scenes, I think it would be hard to say that, but in my heart, I know it could be.
Well, you bring up an interesting thing too, the 4:3 ratio. I don't want to forget that. Can I? And so usually I'm not going to interrupt the whole show, but let's go there actually, because it's unfair to call it a masterpiece. Let's not. I don't want that to be the main fight. 4:3 ratio. The fact that it was sort of half the screen was gone. Thoughts? Go ahead. Was that a blessing or a curse?
From anybody?
For me, it was a curse.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, I was going to say, for me, it was a curse because I thought I watched this on, I got an advanced screener of it. I don't actually have HBO Max. So when I was watching, I thought this was an issue with the screener. I didn't understand what I was looking at. And I thought maybe this is one of those deals where like you get a Blu-ray of an IMAX movie and you have the bars, the widescreen, but then it goes to full screen when they go to the IMAX shots. I thought that was like a weird version of this, but no, the black bars never went away. And it was just strange because even though, and this is a credit to Zack Snyder, even though it was in 4:3, it didn't really feel like 4:3. It's just that the bars were distracting because I'm not used to seeing them there on my television anymore. So yeah, it is what it is, but it's an odd choice.
But I don't know if there's any like DPs on the panel. It's like they shot it for IMAX, they were saying, and they shot it that way because I guess the IMAX screen is more square. But normally when you have a camera, there's lines on the box that shows you the frame like this, and then it's also recording that. So I don't know why, if they knew it was going to be on TV, they wouldn't put out the whole, because they have it recorded. So I'm just curious.
But no visual information is missing, right? Like that's
Correct.
all. They didn't crop.
Oh, that's his shot. But
yeah,
like,
well, he shot it for IMAX. I mean, that was a choice. Honestly, I was not bothered by it. Obviously, it would be better if I was watching it on an IMAX screen. But
all right, that points out because you guys, the pro said it should have been shorter to be a masterpiece, and the 4:3 didn't work, and you guys said it didn't bother you. So, all right, I'm not going to factor in the 4:3. Let's talk characters. What did we get more character development this time around? Go for it.
Yes, absolutely. There was, first of all, the theme of fatherhood, which was present in this film. In Batman vs. Superman, it was the theme of motherhood. So fatherhood here, I'm sure if the sequels happen, there'll be more themes, but that's a conversation for later. The fact that Steppenwolf now actually had like a reason for doing what he was doing, you actually related to Steppenwolf. And I got to tell you, a lot of times I was rooting for Steppenwolf. Like when he was fighting the Amazons, I was like, go man, fuck them shits up. He was crushing it because he wanted to make Darkseid proud, and I don't know what happened that he messed up earlier, but I love the fact that they gave Steppenwolf a reason for being, and to tie it back to Darkseid, it just felt more like a real movie.
Well, it's that brings up a very crucial question. In addition to what is anti-life, what did Steppenwolf do to get into Darkseid's bad graces? I mean, for me, one of the biggest issues with this film is that essentially you swap Steppenwolf for Darkseid in a lot of cases. It's still just this nebulous CGI big bad who wants to destroy the world through these mother boxes, but there's nothing really there to chew on. At the end, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, Steppenwolf is defeated, and then Darkseid is doing essentially what Thanos did for the first like 8 Avengers movies, which is just like looking at a portal, looking at what's going down on Earth and saying, yeah, I'll get there eventually, I guess.
That shot
maybe.
was amazing, though. That was an amazing shot.
Wait, were you honestly amazed? Were you amazed? Were you amazed?
Was amazed.
Did that make you cry?
I was amazed.
Welcome to the movies, man.
Shot, because that shot is such ripped from like the cartoons and the comics to like see that play out where Henry Cavill is standing right there in the black and silver suit and the whole Justice League is staring down Darkseid. Like that is what it's all about.
Okay, but are these movies fan service for those of you who have read every comic book, or are they blockbuster
I've never
movies?
read a comic book, and I've seen.
But you said it's ripped straight from a thing. I don't know what it's ripped from. I don't know what Darkseid looks at or when or who. All right, they start talking about an anti-life equation. I'm like, I don't know. I heard about that one time. I don't know. This movie, yeah, okay. If you're a hardcore DC guy and you get to go in, you get to clap your hands and go, I know that guy. I know that guy. I've seen that guy. This punch is from issue 409 of. Whatever. Okay, I know you guys like it.
It was 502.
502, episode 495, page 322. Okay, the rest of us are going there like, I thought Superman was like a fun guy who flew around with a cape. I like this. Everyone in this movie is depressing and dour the whole time. There's not a moment of levity.
Vito, let me ask you this.
It drives me
Kobe,
nuts.
Jump in here.
Vito, let me ask you this. The movie is about these aliens coming to destroy the planet. Why would they be in a good mood? Like,
if I want to watch a movie where people are depressed, why would I watch an alien invasion movie? Why don't I go watch like a serious human drama instead of watching guys in like fancy costumes just growl at each other? I couldn't even tell Aquaman and Batman apart because they spend the whole movie going, oh, we got to bring Superman back to life. No, we can't bring Superman back to life. I think we should bring Superman. I'm like, can anyone just have fun for a minute? I'm not saying you can't have serious
No, the
themes.
world is
No.
going to end. That's the
Why?
plot
But
of
I
the
don't
movie.
understand why people think like, oh, it's a superhero movie. It's got to be hilarious and
It doesn't have
fun.
to be
No,
hilarious.
it doesn't have to be
But
hilarious.
if I'm gonna watch a 4-hour miserable movie, like there are so many other options that I can think of.
Okay, Vito, that cut of the movie exists that's fun and lighthearted. It's called the theatrical cut, and that movie is way worse than this cut.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
because that
I
was a
would-
mishmash attempt to replicate a
but
thing
here's
after the
why.
fact.
Here's why. The DC canon of heroes, they are more godlike. So you have to treat them with more gravitas. There has to be a little bit sense that it's grounded in reality, which sounds counterintuitive. But the fact that these heroes have these really interdimensional powers, you have to take them seriously. You can't just like be like, oh, that's funny, let's shoot you with a little web. Like, no, there's
Well, no,
stakes.
but that's not true to the comics origins. I mean, the comic books, yes, these are godlike characters in a lot of ways, but they are also from societies in which they are among other godlike figures. You know, whether they be aliens or actual gods, and they just happen to end up on Earth and relating to each other as human beings and relating to humanity as such. You know, one of the reasons these things have survived for 80 plus years is because people can relate to them watching them. They don't read Superman and Batman for quips. They read them because they're very funny, or not funny, but full colored and fantastical adventures, but they're also recognizable as people with more than one mode. And it's not just glowering. If you look at Bruce Wayne from Christopher Nolan's trilogy, what you had with Christian Bale, he could do dark and brooding, but he could also turn on the charm. I was thrilled when I found out Ben Affleck was going to play Batman. I was absolutely horrified by the end of the first movie that he appeared in, because I'm like, okay, he can do that mode, but I also know that Ben Affleck can be charming. He's all Batman and no Bruce Wayne, and we get that times 10 here, times 100.
I don't like any of these. I should,
Batman
even if these
over
are gods on Earth who are grappling with their own things, I should come out of this being like, I like that guy. I don't like Batman.
You didn't like Ray Fisher's Cyborg after watching this? You have no soul.
After he spends the entire movie going, my parents are dead and everything sucks, I went back and I watched the Whedon cut, and there's a little part where they're digging up Superman's grave, and the Flash is like, hey, man, fist bump. And Cyborg has a little chuckle. He goes, all right, come on, man, let's get back to it. And that moment had more humanity for me than any of Zack Snyder's nonsense. I went, oh, Cyborg's like a real guy. Like in that moment, he's like, all right, maybe I'm being a little too dour. Maybe I'm being a little too much. Yeah, all right, let's finish digging up Superman. I didn't get any of that from this version. There was it was just a guy who was miserable, and at the end of it, he realizes, I do love my family. Okay, put a smile on for a second. Remind me that you're a human being
only half of his face exists.
You don't have to write him. Yeah, well, okay, he's got a lot going on. But I don't. If I met a guy who's a robot and he spends every time I talk to him, he goes, "It sucks being a robot. I hate being a robot." I'm gonna go, "Yeah, I don't like you, and I don't want to talk to you."
No, I'll agree that he could have seen the brighter side of having amazing superpowers, and eventually,
like everybody else in this film.
Cyborg's fun
But,
in the comics, in the cartoons.
This
Go.
is his origin story. So I actually think we don't need a whole entire film to introduce these characters. Even if you've never seen a cartoon comic book or a picture of these guys, you know who the Flash is. Cyborg would be the only one people might be knowing about for the first time. So to just see that beautifully shot scene with Ezra Miller as the Flash saving Iris during that scene was amazing. And that's all the origin story you need to see. Oh, he's really fast. He's about to fall in love.
I want to go through those, because
that scene was creepy as hell, though.
So let's go through each character. So we
just
managed to talk about Cyborg, which is great. So I took some notes there, but you even just admitted that he could have been on the brighter side. So be careful, don't give out too much. But let's talk more. So Cyborg, they did give him more. Before we move off of Cyborg,
absolutely,
they gave him more.
He was the heart of the film.
So that's what I was going to get at. So I before I get back to Dylan and Kobe, I'm going to get you in, Kobe. But I'm curious, Ian and Vito, did you not see him as the heart of the film? I'm curious.
Cyborg?
Yes.
No, I
Go ahead, Ian.
I was going to say he might be the heart of the film, but he's also indicative of why this film has a heart problem. This whole Cyborg story arc was something I could have seen, and I felt like I did see on a CW TV show. There's nothing that merits this amount of runtime for a story that's that basic, and I think they left a completely amazing story opportunity on the cutting room floor if they'd even conceived of it. This is mild spoilerish, but leave Superman dead for the entire film and have the focus be on Cyborg. He's made out of the mother box material. If you want to have this thing where Superman's resurrected and he throws a hissy fit because he doesn't know where he is and he like turns dark for a little bit, switch that around and have Cyborg have a conflict because the mother boxes, they are part of him. They come back to life and maybe they start controlling him. So these other people have to come together to stop him, but also bring them onto their side. Sort of like, sorry to bring up the Avengers again, what you saw with Scarlet Witch in Avengers Age of Ultron. You could have had a richer storyline there. Instead, we get that tired scene of mom's driving him in the car and she looks over and talks to him way too long while they're driving in snow or rain or something, and something awful happens. And from there, it's just cliche town through the entire rest of the film.
Dylan and Kobe, I'm curious. Cliche. Let's go to you, Kobe, because I haven't heard much. Cliche town is an interesting way to put it. How would you fight that?
I actually totally agree. My perception of the arc is that at first the audience is kind of mixed on Cyborg in the first act because, for one, yes, it's a tragedy in the way in which he dies, and he's clearly very upset at his father for two things. One, he kind of blames him for the accident. He's like, well, if my father was there, we would have never been in the accident. If he was there at the football game, then it would have never happened. And then as the audience, you're kind of like, well, okay, you can't really blame your father for that. Like, yes, he wasn't a great dad. He wasn't at your games and whatever. He wasn't as supportive as he could have been, but he wasn't a terrible father or anything. And he certainly wasn't responsible for this. And secondly, I think that you also, as the audience, then you start to follow this trajectory with Cyborg, where he then starts to realize, like, okay, my father actually does care about me, and he sort of sees the other side of it. And then by the end of the film, he has this sort of emotional journey, and it is a complete arc where from the beginning he is very bitter, he's very upset. But that's why I'm a little bit confused by everybody saying, oh, the film is so dark and brooding, because by the end of it, it's the opposite of that. So just because that's where he starts, the beginning of the film, doesn't mean that defines the film. It certainly is a very lighthearted and not lighthearted, but it's a very inspiring, uplifting story with Cyborg's arc. So I thought it was beautifully executed. And once again, comparing to the prior cut, which it seems that some of you seem to be almost endorsing is better because it has more jokes, it's more lighthearted. I find that to be insane because that movie has no arc at all. It has no character arc of any kind when it comes to Cyborg, and that was one of the biggest strengths of this film. I would say that Cyborg was the heart of the film.
Absolutely. In fact, a star of a movie, the hero of a movie, is the one that changes, and the supporting characters are the agents of change. So Cyborg at the beginning, who is so pissed off, and he's like, leave me alone, I'm wearing a hood, I'm not helping anybody. You know that has to go somewhere. And yeah, the final scene, by the way, you could call it cliche or whatever, but in these films, I love those little like one-liners that like you know what they're about to say and they just really deliver it well. So if he's like, I'm not alone or whatever, it just gets you excited. Like when Batman says he bought the bank, even though we might have seen that already, it's just, you get so hyped. Like that's what these movies are about. Like delivering those lines that make you feel good. It's like ASMR, but like with line readings.
Why didn't he just buy the house? That's something that bugs me.
The house might not have been for sale.
It's Bruce.
That's
Wayne.
my assumption.
It's a little joke.
Yeah, the bank bought the house. That seemed pretty.
It's a fun
all right,
thing.
So for Cyborg, we're a little mixed there, but I hear you. For the heart of the
well,
film,
let me say about Cyborg is that, I mean, what are we saying, that he's the emotional center of the movie, that his arc is the most important arc? Well, what do you mean when we're saying he's the emotional? I know that's the quote. He's the emotional core of the movie. What does that mean exactly? That we're supposed to follow his path, and that's the ultimate path the audience is led on. That we start off, everything's down and depressing.
Who are you asking,
we learn
Vito?
To accept anybody wants to tell me what it means that he's the emotional core of the movie.
Here's what I'll say. We're so used to following Batman, Superman, and Superman is my favorite hero of all time. He is the GOAT. So to have this film sort of center around like the Flash and Cyborg saving the day, I really like that a lot. And hopefully Ray Fisher comes back and returns for future films. Andy, maybe you have some insight on that, because I thought him and Ezra Miller worked really well together. And so for us to like get behind these characters, the Flash trying to like go way beyond his means of what he's been able to accomplish as a hero to like do what he did, and Cyborg, to see his like
okay.
Come full
so
circle.
let me say here, I mean, as I was thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, it would have been really cool if they made a Flash and Cyborg dual origin movie. so that I could have focused on whatever the story is of these characters and where they come from and learning and whatever. The problem is, you're telling me, Cyborg's the heart of the movie, and I'm like, okay, but then like whatever his story is, I got to watch another hour of Aquaman and women sniffing his sweater. I got to watch Wonder Woman do some of the worst narration to a big CG battle scene. Well, Cyborg has nothing to do with. Whatever story Cyborg has is diluted by all this other nonsense that plot suffers. Okay, this is an ensemble cast. You have to tell an ensemble story, but everyone's off doing their own thing. It doesn't take until not even halfway through the movie do they have the whole team assembled. This is a mishmash of a movie. If this was a solid, focused Cyborg and Flash adventure, I'd be right there with you, and I'd think that a lot of the scenes that Zach shot were great. But the fact that they're interspliced with all this weird nonsense,
I thought they actually
it doesn't get me there. It's a distraction from Cyborg's story.
I thought they
Huge
had
distraction.
these little short films that they really did well. Basically, you did an entire origin story in like 8 minutes, and I thought they really did everything you needed to accomplish that you would see in an entire movie separately. And if they want to do those separate solo movies that minimally connect to this, that's fine. And then bring it back here for like Snyder's take. But the question really that we're arguing here is, was it worth it? And when you leave this film, you get a sense of what the Snyderverse is all about, where this prod party can be going, what the new tone is. When you left the Justice League, whatever, it wasn't it wasn't a movie. There was nothing there. They couldn't go anywhere. We didn't watch anything. This was something that you were along for the ride. You get where everybody is. It was really enjoyable by like the scenes that were taking place that were just, you could get detailed about that, and then where it leaves us and where it's going.
And going off of that too, Vito, I think that the strength of what they did with this film is that rather than having to have a 2.5 hour drawn out solo film, like we're doing in Marvel. Now, I'm not trying to do like DC versus Marvel or whatever, but what you'll see with the MCU, which culminated in Infinity War and Endgame, is that every character, Ant-Man has to have a trilogy of standalone movies. Like, why? When you can encapsulate his origin in 35 minutes. And that's the strength of what they did here, is that it's just a dynamic film. You have, once again, the world-ending threat part of the film, but that doesn't have to be 4 hours, right? So there are other things, and like to make that part stronger, then you have these other pieces where you have the solo bits where you really get to develop and grow with the characters and develop an affinity for the characters. So I think that they work in synchrony with one another. I don't view them in contrast with one another, or that any one piece detracts from one another. I think that they both work together perfectly, and those origin moments from the first act paid off in the third act when Cyborg has his big payoff moment. So I thought that there was, it worked perfectly there. And I kind of prefer that model as opposed to having to sit through a 2.5 hour solo movie of every single character.
Okay.
I mean, why do we have to do that?
I'm going to say that I completely disagree. The whole point of an origin story is to show me what a superhero was before they became the superhero. So I understand how their lives have changed, what they have gained, what they have lost. In the case of Cyborg, we know that he was good at football and he loved his mom. We never get to see him as like a happy kid in high school. We never get to learn, was he popular? Was he fun? I mean, yeah, you can assume all of that, but it would have been so much stronger if you get to see Cyborg. Oh, this was like a happy, stable guy. He had everything going for him. He had a girlfriend, whatever. Now he's a robot and he's a broody.
Is this not implied by being the star?
But I don't want it to be implied. When I meet Cyborg, as far as I know, this has been Cyborg his whole life. He's always been kind of a dick. I have never met Cyborg before Cyborg.
Right. So when that movie comes out, you'd be like, holy shit, I have to.
So you're saying that they now have to make a separate Cyborg origin movie?
If they wanted to, you would be interested in seeing what's that all about.
This is again with the Flash. He already has his powers. I don't know what he was like before he had his powers. Okay, I know that. Yeah, his dad's in prison. What was that like? Again, I don't know how you guys can praise this movie. Oh, it's so great that they jammed their origin into one scene. That's not something to be proud of. That's a detriment.
Just to go back to something that I was suggesting earlier about a possible story for Cyborg. I think there's a way that you could make this movie his origin film and still have it be a Justice League movie, instead of shoving his entire backstory into a series of flashbacks that we get throughout the movie. Have it start out with him being a high school kid, or I think he was in
Yes.
college, right? Because he
college or
college
something.
football, right? And have him go through the entire thing, and throughout the course of the movie, his father is working at Star Labs, gets this technology to bring his kid back. Actually, watch that, something that's got forward momentum instead of something that we're looking at it from a perspective of he's just got the mother box in his closet and he's thinking back about this stuff. It's like, well, this has already happened, so I don't quite know what the stakes are. And then if the mother box technology that resurrects him is also starting to affect him and turn, have him question his loyalties, is he going to be good with this new power or bad with his new power? These are questions I thought they were going to pose when his father is essentially telling him, you've got access to the internet, to nuclear launch codes. You are basically invincible. I'm like, okay, why would you give that power to your 18, 19, 20-year-old kid? First of all, you'd put him in the pet cemetery if you discovered that the enhancements you gave him basically made him into a potential monster. But none of these questions are answered, really. And we get Joe Morton again blowing himself up in a lab. I was like, again, it's T2 flashbacks, and I just wish I was watching a better 2.5-hour movie.
Well, but I mean, Superman also has that level of power to destroy the whole world, right? But he doesn't because he's a hero. I mean, that's kind of...
Yeah, because
well,
we got to watch an entire movie where we meet his parents and we learn about his moral code and his Christian background. Cyborg is a guy who's got a robot body and is real mad. And I know he used to be good at football and he's mad that his mom's dead. It's not enough.
That you consider Superman Christian because he was created by two Jews. And he really is a model for
I meant Zack Snyder's Superman is Christian because there's a giant picture of Jesus every time he's on the screen. I know he's got Jewish origins, but
that's why he cast him when he was 33 years old. He was very happy that Jesus was 33. I know, he's very excited.
When Warner Brothers issues an official document to churches how to give a sermon about our new movie Man of Steel, yeah, he's a Christian superhero this time around. And I can get you that sermon if you want to read. Jesus, the original superhero, was the name of that sermon, and I have a PDF of it. Well, officially sponsored by Warner Brothers.
What's interesting to me is this idea of the origin, because I want to move on to some other topics, but it's like, because we could talk for 4 hours. I'm trying to keep us more condensed. But it's interesting because you guys are, it seems like Vito and Ian are talking about we would have learned more, and we actually learned more of the characters beforehand, but you guys are sort of against that. But it's like, what? But no, isn't that what the whole point is? You had 4 hours to tell the story. It sounds like we're stuck in here of it wasn't enough for Vito and Ian to be connected to Cyborg. Were there any? I mean, Flash wasn't.
The 4 hours were spent on making Zack Snyder slow motion scenes longer. Like, do you know the scene where he throws the Batarang and Flash grabs it? I'm pretty sure they extended that scene by like 3 times the length of the original shot. Like, I thought going in this 4-hour thing we were going to expand on all this stuff, and yeah, we did in some ways, but.
We got the sesame
it was not
seed,
worth
though.
it.
The sesame seed in slow motion coming right at our faces.
I got to watch the Flash pocket a hot dog in slow motion. Okay.
He was trying to pocket a hot dog with that girl where he's like pushing her hair back and
he's
stuff.
He's trying to do more
cute.
than pocket the hot dog.
But you got to remember, this was a point where you're right. We were supposed to meet Flash, Cyborg, and Aquaman, right? All 3 of them were going to be introduced in this movie because Wonder Woman had come out before Man of Steel. We saw Batman, obviously, but that was 3 heroes that were to be introduced in this film. And I'm curious, did they? So we talked about Cyborg enough. Flash, from a standpoint, were you all happy with the way Flash was handled in this? He was given more humor in Joss's cut. He was also given scenes, which I did say I liked, the Superman and Flash sort of saving people, the foot race at the end. So that was sort of the difference of what we had with Flash, and also the removal of the scene with Ben Affleck saying "just save one."
Yes,
those were key moments that were pulled from Joss's cut, and I'm curious, Flash, better, worse? Talk.
Better. That scene where he like ran and protected them from the falling concrete, that was amazing. Love that.
Yeah, I thought it was better. And one thing that did surprise me when I was watching the film is I was like, wow, a lot of these jokes actually were in the Zack Snyder cut. And that did surprise me. I really thought that, the snack hole line and some of these other lines, it's like, there's no way Zack Snyder did it, but he actually did. And that showed that, Zack Snyder definitely approached this film in a different way than he approached BVS. And that's where I definitely do not agree with the criticism that he's sort of like tonally the same in every movie. I mean, certainly you're getting the broad strokes of Zack Snyder in every single film that he does. He has a very distinct style, but this film is way funnier than than BBS, for instance, or even Man of Steel. And he really did a great job, and Chris Terrio and everyone else did a great job at incorporating the humor of the Flash in the film. Now, I don't necessarily think that the Flash got the same treatment as Cyborg did, but it would have been very difficult to build out the Flash's origin in the same way that they did with Cyborg, or do it for even Aquaman or every other character, because you only have 4 hours. That sounds weird to say, but you know.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but that line kind of buries you for a little bit. Well, you only got 4 hours.
You know, because Josh, like, for example, that scene, I hated that scene in the earlier theatrical cut when, like, Bruce and Diana were like drinking whiskey. First of all, Batman doesn't drink. Thank you very much. So when they were just like messing around with like the mouse, like that was fine. It was just the right amount of like levity that is realistic. And if they're gonna like maybe hook up in the future, that was fine.
Well, let me just
Agreed.
I want to get back to something that Andy brought up, an omission from the Zack Snyder cut. It was the one thing that I thought was really kind of
Let's go
special
for a
about.
4-hour
Hold on,
debate.
sorry.
Zack Snyder's Nerd Wars. Hashtag release the Nerd Wars cut.
Thank you, Wancho. If you tip over $20, a British robot interrupts us. So thank you, Wancho, for saying that out. Release the Nerd War cut. Appreciate your support, Wancho. Keep going. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no worries. But that was the one thing that I really latched onto from Joss Whedon's version, is that exchange between Batman and the Flash when they're going in, getting ready to go and rescue those people, I think inside the nuclear reactor. Flash is freaking out because he's never actually done this before, and Bruce just says, just save one. I thought that really encapsulated this idea of how to start thinking like a superhero. You don't have to, go out, strike out to save the world. Just save one person. It's going to kind of create this momentum of heroism. I thought that was a special, really human moment, and it's not in the Zack Snyder version. I'm like, of all the things to cut out, the one moment of true humanity in this entire mess, that's what you go with.
Well,
it's
but
my
the thing
understanding
is,
that nothing Whedon shot is in this.
Correct.
Is that
Nothing.
correct?
correct.
Nothing
I was
Whedon
gonna
shot
say
did.
that.
Go ahead, Kobe.
So no, I was just gonna clarify that. Like the Snyder, or excuse me, the Joss Whedon cut used a lot of Snyder footage, but not the other way around. So this film, to my understanding, does not have any footage from. My understanding is Zack Snyder said he hasn't even seen the movie, so he doesn't even
Correct.
like know.
So
what
he
was shot and
so he
whatnot.
says. So he says.
It's possible.
I
I
don't
can see
know.
it.
I don't know.
He would just feel good after because it was so bad.
It's very bad.
I would say the Flash. I mean, again, my big problem with this movie is that most of the characters are just miserable. Batman's mad that he killed Superman. Aquaman's mad. I don't know why. He just wants to get drunk. Wonder Woman's still not over the fact that her boyfriend
Vito.
died 100 years ago, and she got to bring him back in the 80s and say goodbye to him
Well,
again.
that was more in Joss's cut. They didn't really mention that.
Okay.
Wait, but Vito, Batman is literally getting on his little ship thing, the Nightcrawler, whatever they call it. I don't know. He's getting on his ship to go fight Steppenwolf, and like basically the end of the world is 1 hour away from happening. And he tells Alfred with a smile on his face, he's like, "Oh, we got to have his faith," or something to that effect. I forget. Like, how much happier does he have to be?
Well,
How
Batman's
much
the one
more-
guy. Batman's the one guy who does not need to be happy. But you basically got a movie full of Batmans.
But that's what I'm
You could have
saying,
called this
is
Family
like-
of Batmans plus Flash, and Flash does not do enough to balance out 4 Batmans. And Superman doesn't show up until way after the fact.
I don't even need Barry Allen the Flash to be funny. I don't. First of all, Barry Allen
I need a
not even
guy.
supposed to be funny.
If you got a bunch of dudes in silly costumes being mad at each other, I need one normal guy at the center of it going, "Wow, what is going on? We got to go fight an alien."
Went down into the Batcave. He was like, "Oh, this is sick," and he was
Yeah,
excited to
I
be
know.
around.
All the weight of the movie is on the Flash to make this something where it's not just dour and miserable.
First of
And
all,
Ezra
we
Miller
don't
does
need
not give
Gal
me
Gadot
enough.
making wisecracks. Okay, let's. keep
No, we
everybody
don't. But we
straight.
need one
Right.
human character, a guy who I truly connect with, where I go, listen, I'm never going to be a guy like Batman. I got nothing to do with fish people. Okay, I'm not a Themyscirian, whatever. But I need a guy like the Flash, where I'm like, that's just a guy. I could see myself showing up and being like, I relate to this guy. But I don't relate to the Flash because they made him this super awkward, weird. I think he was kind of trying to play him a little bit autistic in a way. And he just was not relatable as much as like a Tom Holland or something like that. I keep thinking of Tom Holland's Spider-Man would have been perfect as the Flash, or somebody, an actor like that,
Oh, God,
who's just a
no.
normal kid to go, wow, there's a lot going on today. But instead, everybody is either depressed, or just flipping weird and
Well,
did
I
not
would
give me
say
enough.
Ezra Miller's strength is his theatrical acting, and I don't even, for me, my taste is like he doesn't even need the comedy to be relatable, and I don't even think there's room in this world for that sort of comedy. And I think for what it is to give those people what they wanted as far as the humor, I think he delivered beyond.
I think his humor was, I mean, the Whedon's humor sucks too, but at least, again, you had that great scene in the friggin' graveyard. Tries to give him the fist bump. That made me laugh more than I think anything in Zack Snyder. And I'm not saying I want to spend this whole movie laughing. But when a bunch of guys are growling at each other about a magic box and trying to bring an alien friend back from the dead, someone's got to be there to go, woohoo. All right, you guys, this is weird what we're doing. I'm digging an alien up in the middle of the night.
Well, there was there was more. The other thing that was gone, and I'm curious, the thoughts is they did give Batman a little bit more motivation in a way of trying to bring the team together at all costs, even if it was to almost felt like it was to replace himself. Like it felt like in Joss's cut, there's a lot of like, I got to bring this team together, and then it goes so far as like he's fighting with them all the whole time. There's conflict between him and Wonder Woman, and then he brings Lois in as sort of bring out the big guns. It sort of gave Batman a lot of sort of stuff. I know we're all trying to trash Joss and saying it's the worst, but I'm curious your thoughts from all of you guys. Was any of that sort of missing in this cut at any point of having Batman have that arc? And instead, what do you think, or what did you like about Batman's arc in Zack's version better?
I don't know that he had an arc, really. I mean, I was noticing how absent Batman was in this film. We get a lot of Bruce Wayne acting like Batman and that he's just the brooding dark guy. And I don't know if this was the same in Joss's cut because I hadn't seen it in a few years. But during the resurrection of Superman, all of the Justice League show up to take him down because they were just underground or whatever. Batman shows up at the very end, and I was just like, oh yeah, because he was probably climbing upstairs or walking upstairs or something to get and having to cross that field to get to the monument. It really, this version sells the fact that he's just a guy, even though his superpower is that he's rich. That'll only get you so far. He's just kind of a supporting character. He's more the Alfred of the Justice League in this film, and I didn't really dig that.
No, but that's his job. He's the leader in that way. He's like the team captain.
Right, but even going back to the comics, which I know we're not supposed to do because it's the movie, but if you look at the origins of this, Bruce Wayne and Batman can carry their own and make themselves valuable to the Justice League instead of just playing the Nick Fury part where he brings everyone together and disappears into the shadows until he is needed again to show up and give a quip and leave.
If you like superhero films and you're watching Snyder and Affleck's Batman in the Batman suit doing his thing, if you don't like what you're seeing, I don't know what to say to you because it's so phenomenal.
Why?
He just does a really good job.
Why is it phenomenal? I need to hear why, because again, what I'm trying to get is Justice League in Joss's version did give him a bit more to do. So, and unless I missed it, I'd love for you to tell me.
I actually took him more seriously in this. Like, he had more skin in the game. Like, he was playing, it was more serious. Like, his acting was better, actually. And I think just, like, looking at Batman, you really know this guy is not messing around. And, like, he dropped an F-bomb at the end, and that's how you sort of feel like his character throughout the whole time. Like, you take him really seriously.
Kobe, thoughts?
No, I agree with that. I also will say is some of the extra scenes to add some levity to the film are really good. Like when he's leaving the Aquaman little like cold island thing where Aquaman's hanging out, and he sort of just talks to Alfred and he recaps his exchange, and it's clear that he has really put a lot of time and effort into assembling the team. The other line that stood out to me that, and Andy, you just saw the Joss Whedon cut. I only saw it once in theaters and never will watch it again. But please let me know if this is not in there. But I believe he said something to the effect of like, my last promise that I made to Superman was to assemble this team. That line stood out to me in the Snyder cut as something that was not in the Joss Whedon cut. So that was one thing that really stood out to me as well, is sort of the promise and vow that Batman made to Superman, someone who was obviously a foe throughout all of BVS. But by the end of the film, he saves his mother and becomes an ally with Superman. And he clearly has the sense of regret and remorse that he let Superman die. and he feels guilty for that. And I really love that about this film, is that Superman, and like the promise that Batman made to Superman, he kept that promise even though he just tried to kill him 10 seconds earlier. I thought that those moments were really good.
Yeah, that promise though wasn't in the movie, so that you have to. I don't remember that because you're reminding me just to. I don't remember that in BVS, his promise, but the Joss cut does offer sort of a. Superman's upset at Batman for bringing him back, and Alfred and Batman have an exchange. Jeremy Irons has a scene in Joss's cut. They're like, well, what if he doesn't want to come back? Like, sort of, they set all that up a lot more, which tips the hat to what's going to happen, but we already know what's going to happen. But there's a lot more of like fighting on, do we bring Superman back? That is a question that Joss asks in his cut, which is sort of not brought up at all. They're sort of like, yeah, of course we're going to do this.
Well, Aquaman talks about it a lot.
Sure, Aquaman. Sorry, you're correct.
Fisher Cyborg had a vision of the bad stuff that's going to happen. And
right, after they decided, after they dug him up.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, they were saying they were having a chat before Superman sort of came up on that thing, which was one of the times I cried in that holograph. That was really good. But yeah, at the additional scenes, are we moving on to a different conversation? Because I just want to talk about like the nightmare scenes.
Yeah, I wanted to get to the nightmare scene. So thank you.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of it's definitely just a personal preference here. Is what with a lot of, so it's hard to judge this. But I have a couple of points. But I want to get to the stuff that where did this go to? So to answer, was this worthy? Why was this worthy? We've talked about the movie. It's clearly divisive. Some people are connected, some people aren't. I think it's about the characters you've previously seen, and so you're seeing them more in depth in this version. But moving forward, the epilogue was really the one thing he did add. Like he reshot was only that ending. From what I've gathered, everything else had pretty much been reshot. Even the spoiler alert Martian Manhunter scene at the end had been shot. It was originally going to be Green Lantern, guys. I don't know if you knew that. Right. And then they Warner Brothers is like, you're going to get fired if you put Green Lantern in there. So he used that as Martian Manhunter. That was revealed in a stream that wasn't supposed to be. But now we know. What
actor was playing Jon Stewart, though? That we need to find out what actor
he
was
said.
playing.
Yeah,
it would have been the same guy, right?
No one we know. Apparently, we don't know. He cast somebody. Apparently, it wasn't Ryan Reynolds. It wasn't there. It wasn't Ryan. But I do think Ryan Reynolds was asked. I do believe they did.
Can I ask a question?
What?
Is it good that the final line of the movie is, by the way, they call me the Martian Manhunter?
That's the final line of the movie. Yes.
We go out on.
That's why, let's talk about just the epilogue in general, because I'm curious. Actually, from a finale standpoint, Ian and Vito, did you feel like the finale was better?
No.
You mean the Flash running real fast, or all the garbage afterwards?
Yeah, this Flash running, Superman's return, all of that sort of difference.
I like the Flash had something to do.
The beheading by Wonder Woman, all of that.
Yeah. It was just a different way of getting to the same place.
So no, you didn't like it more?
No, I didn't. I don't think it made it any necessarily better. I mean, some of the lines were better. We got rid of that stupid line where Superman goes, "I prefer justice" or whatever. Thank God that line's gone. You know what line I'm talking about?
I vaguely remember that one, but yeah.
I also like justice. I don't remember.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, it was a stupid line.
Yeah.
I think
it was less corny, I guess. We got rid of the apartment building saving, which you're like, dude, go fight Steppenwolf. You don't have time to save an apartment building. I don't care.
Dylan and Kobe, your thoughts on the finale? Was it better?
Amazing, epic finale. I loved what the Flash was saying about past, future. It's all right now, which is what everyone should know, that their only moment to ever exist or will ever exist is right now. So I love that little life lesson in there. I thought that his acting when he got hurt, I thought he was really good there. And that moment we touched on it earlier when the boom tube opened and they stared at each other, that was awesome. I think Superman coming back and sort of just doing a little bit, because we know how powerful Superman is. Like if he was there the whole time, boom, boom, case closed. So I thought they brought him in just at the right time. Not impressive, great line, little cool breath, broke that thing. He really messed Steppenwolf up. That was awesome. Everyone worked as a team. Everyone got like their shot in, Aquaman stuck him up, Wonder Woman sliced his head off. That was great. And then sending him back. And Darkseid had no presence in the previous version. And so was it worthy? Yes. To see this all culminate in that finale, come face to face with Darkseid, and then in the final nightmare scene, Jared Leto, I thought, crushed it. I love that like whole other world with this new team setting up what's going to happen in the future. I thought that was just so tremendous. And then just going back earlier, there was that middle nightmare scene that we didn't see in the earlier cut where Superman is flying with Batman's head. That was sick. So to see it come back around in the finale with Joker coming through, awesome.
I think the exact opposite. I think showing Darkseid cheapens the finale by telling you, you basically killed a henchman. You've accomplished like half the job. And here's a teaser for a movie you'll never get. In the Marvel films, when they show Thanos, it is like you get 1 second. We don't dwell on it. It's like, yeah, there is another bad guy around the corner, but let's focus on the victory at hand. You beat this guy. This was a big victory. Instead, it's like, no. You killed a guy who was trying to get back in good graces with the actual bad guy. I think Darkseid in this movie ended up being to the detriment of the movie. I think it ultimately took away, like, why should I care about Steppenwolf if you're continually teasing a villain I know I'm never going to see a movie about?
Good question.
Like,
what do you guys think of that?
You're constantly building towards a villain I'm never going to get. What?
You don't want to die. This guy is here to kill people.
So how does Darkseid add anything to the movie? Why not just focus on the main bad guy and be like, this guy's a threat, let's take him seriously?
Well, Darkseid
instead constantly teasing, well, there's actually another bad guy.
Well, I think that's sort of the problem. Vito, you brought up something. You put it a great turn of phrase. It's a little bit of difference to get to the exact same place. And I brought this up at the beginning. We've got two villains in this movie. I almost said Thanos, Darkseid and Steppenwolf. But Darkseid and Steppenwolf are pretty much interchangeable. You know, you've got, yeah, you're right. You defeated the henchman. You've got this other guy waiting in the wings. A, we don't know if we're ever going to see that movie. And B, at the end of the Joss Whedon cut, at the end of the Whedon version, we're left with, okay, yeah, they took out Steppenwolf, but he is the herald of Darkseid. So Darkseid is coming. That's the exact same place we end up at the end of this movie is, yeah, Steppenwolf's dead and Darkseid is coming. We get a bit more of Darkseid in the Lord of the Rings prologue ripoff, where Darkseid is now fighting everybody instead of Steppenwolf. Great, you replace one CGI monster with another, but it adds absolutely nothing to the narrative. There's no significance between the two characters, except for the one cool line that puts into context this universe, where Steppenwolf owes Darkseid 50,000 worlds he has to conquer in order to get back in his good graces out of like 1 trillion. I'm like, how big is this universe? I want to see that. Get off Earth and go, I want to hang out with the Lantern Corps.
The lanterns are coming.
Let me build on that.
But hold on. So before you keep trashing, I want to let them respond to that because it's a valid point they're bringing.
Real quick, let me just build on what Ian said real quick. Just replacing Steppenwolf with Darkseid in that big CGI battle. Aren't you supposed to be getting me excited for the villain of the movie I'm watching? Why are you getting me excited for the villain of a movie that will never get made?
Well, I bet just take that away. You're hating on the. Let's not go there. Who knows what'll happen? But you make a valid.
Even if you are going to make it,
but
why
you
not
make a valid criticism, Vito. Why hype up a villain why hype up a villain that doesn't show up? I think is the fair way to ask that question. So I put that to you, Dylan and Kobe. Why should we be excited and scared of Steppenwolf when they keep alluding to a bigger bad that we don't get to see in the movie?
Well, I think a couple of things. One, certainly, when you see Darkseid introduced throughout, you're kind of like, is he going to show up? Is he not at the end, the final act? Whether he does or not, it doesn't matter. It certainly shows that the implication of the threat that has arrived is much bigger than just Steppenwolf. I think that works to the movie's benefit, not detriment. Also, I'm just astonished that you guys would say that the ending is more or less the same. The theatrical cut, the ending sort of plays out kind of like a very generic superhero film. In this movie, they literally lose the battle. Flash reverses time. The Junkie XL score swells. It's so good. It is so good.
The Junkie XL score swells. Put that on my tombstone,
in
my
every
friend.
video game or movie, there's always the bad guy you have to beat before getting to the main
mini boss. Yeah.
This happens to just be part of a 3-part trilogy. So as the first part of the 3-part trilogy, you got to get through the one bad guy to get to the big bad guy.
So that's important. So I want to push on that because this is where I think it all comes down to a head because I'm trying to be fair here, and so I'm going to push back a little bit here to the pro team. Zach has said he's not coming back and do another comic book movie. That's the latest quote he said. This is not. There's no talk or rumors. There's so much drama still between Warner Brothers, his fan base, etc. It's an uphill battle to try and get another movie made from Zack Snyder in the DC world. Is it possible? Sure. If the downloads are great, anything is possible. I'm not saying it's not happening, but it's clearly an uphill battle. It's not something that's coming next. So it's not like he's prepping this. Now he was planning that when he made this. But the question is, was it worthy? And so to make a movie where you're hyping up something that we may never see, I do need to push back. Who's Darkseid? What is this? If I'm watching this and I'm not a fan of the comics and everything else, why is this worthy to give us this tease of a character that we'll never see? And I do actually want to I'm going to correct it. He did add those flashbacks, dark side scenes. He also did those because that was CGI. He didn't have to shoot that. He CGI'd that. He added more dark side effects and had the ILM team make more quick little moments of dark side sort of looking forward. For what was that? Did we need that?
Well, that was to your point to say, like, who is this guy Darkseid? There was a little origin story there. Go ahead, Kobe.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that yes, he did add some to Darkseid, but even in the original Snyder cut, one of the biggest things that Joss Whedon did is he removed Darkseid altogether. So I think that he would agree with Vito's mention. It's like he's not a big player in this movie. We don't need to have him. But the reality of it is that we're holding Zack responsible in 2017. Like Zack in 2017 or 2015, even when he started making the movie, he didn't know that he would not get a sequel. So when he was crafting Darkseid and Apocalypse and Steppenwolf and Desaad and all these characters that were, involved in the film, he did not know that he was not going to get a clear sequel. His understanding was that he'd get a Justice League 2 and everything like that. So I don't think we can hold him responsible for that. And for adding scenes of Darkseid in the Snyder cut, I mean, that's just totally understandable because he already had that initial role of Darkseid, and everything about this film is longer and more drawn out. So of course he's going to extend the Darkseid stuff. He's going to extend the Cyborg stuff, extend scenes with Flash. So that's pretty much just sort of the name of the game with the film. I wouldn't hold him responsible for not knowing that he wasn't going to get a sequel where Darkseid will come in. And like you said, you never know what will happen. I do agree there's a huge uphill battle there with some actors now having retired from their roles. That's a challenge, but you make a good point there.
And that's a fair.
We can't hold him responsible for that.
Totally fair answer. So I'll accept that. So, but let's get back to is it worthy? Now, the other question to sort of add that a lot of people have been chatting. The nightmare scene and Joker. There's a lot of division about the Joker, Jared Leto coming back, and the epilogue altogether. I'm curious. I want to tackle that, and then we're going to go to closing arguments as to was it worthy. So if you have more things to say, fit it in here quickly. But overall, the epilogue. The epilogue was the real thing that he added to sort of offer more insight on what the future of this is, and also the chance to sort of do what he wanted to finish up. Was the epilogue satisfying enough, and was that worthy to tack on as sort of a way to make fans more excited? Let's start with the positive. Dylan and Kobe, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the studio didn't want him to do anything that would lead the audience on to suggesting there would be more films. But Snyder said, hey, this is the genre. Regardless of whether you make something or not, this is the way the film is going to end. I thought Leto's Joker was amazing. I want to see an entire movie with that Joker. So, and also to see that Joker and that Batman come face to face was for the first time ever. That was amazing. To hear him call him Batman, to hear Cyborg call out Superman. These are things we didn't really hear in Man of Steel or Batman v Superman or even the last Justice League. So to see all that play out was awesome. The growth of the character of Joker, and then sorry to just move it over slightly. The growth of Lex Luthor, Jesse Eisenberg, I thought was phenomenal. So to see a little bit of growth, knowing where this all can go, I thought was amazing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that the final scene with Batman and the Joker reminded me quite a bit of The Killing Joke, not necessarily in terms of what they're discussing necessarily, but just it definitely gave off very similar vibes. And I think that, like Dylan mentioned, the great benefit of having this scene is that we did not get to see a lot of, Batman and the Joker interacting. In fact, we saw nothing of it. And additionally, in BVS, we saw a little bit of an Easter egg where he looks up to the Robin suit. Obviously, it's implied that the Joker killed Robin. And in this scene, they actually discuss it and they actually talk about it. The Joker taunts him about it. And it's so good. And then Batman drops the F-bomb. And it's like, it was such a good scene. It was such a good scene.
Why? Hold on. Why was Joker amazing and why was it a good scene? Because it answered and showed you more from a previous movie. I need a little bit more as to why.
I thought his performance as a Joker was an incredible take. It was manic. It was risky. It was pulled from my imagination. It's something that you didn't even expect, and it just really hit the nail on the head. Snyder, for me, actually in the past shied away from comic bookness, and I thought that interaction, that conversation, was very comic book-y in this style of Zack Snyder's filmmaking. So that made it really enjoyable.
Okay, other side, go ahead. Ian?
Oh, Vito, why don't you take this one? I mean,
Sure.
I'll
I don't understand how you're going to make a
second.
movie called Justice League that doesn't end with anybody being like, we should probably establish a Justice League or anything to do with the title of the movie.
Well, they did.
Instead, you
He
cut.
did. That's where
What
he
did he
walks
say?
into Wayne.
That
He
big
walks into Wayne
room with the
Manor.
big chairs.
Yeah, he walks into
We'll
Wayne
need more
Manor,
chairs.
which has
The-
been
with the table and the
dilapidated
chairs,
for
yeah.
a few years. And he's like, this is a 150-foot tall ceiling, and we can put a big round table here, and that's the. That's
Oh, yeah,
where
yeah, yeah. No, I know you got that. But then you got Aquaman getting in his truck and driving away. Then you got,
Wait,
what,
sorry.
Flash goes.
Wasn't it BVS: The Dawn of Justice? Shouldn't that scene have been on the first? Shouldn't that scene have been at the
Shouldn't that
end
have
of
been where he wanted
BVS?
to
And
start
then
talking
you're right.
about
We got
having
in
a
this.
league?
I didn't think of. Sorry, but I never considered. You're right.
Everyone kind of seems
called
to
the
go
Dawn
their
of Justice,
separate
but
ways.
then
To
anyway,
be fair,
continue.
Batman and Wonder Woman are together, but everybody else goes their other separate ways. And then I got to cut to the desert and meet the Joker in the future. Like, can I get a cohesive ending? This is like an after credits. Like, if this was a deleted scene or an after credits thing, fine. But this is the end of the movie. I go to the future. Batman tells the Joker he's gonna fucking kill him. And I'm like, what am I Like, I don't know, man. If you're gonna give me a 4-hour movie, wouldn't you want to have the most polished, cohesive experience and not just they gave me a bunch of money, so I'm gonna put whatever ridiculous nonsense I can think of, and then the Martian Manhunter will show up? Like, this movie is all over the place. And you
they're
can say
showing
it's awesome that Batman said the F-bomb, but like, I get nothing from that. That
They're
doesn't
showing
add
you
to my
the future.
viewing experience.
They're showing you the future that they're going to have to fix. The way that Martian Manhunter ended this movie is the same way Man of Steel ended, where Superman and General Stanwyck were talking to each other. So I thought that was really cool. Basically, the same thing happened, but the opposite. So I thought that was great. And now that Martian Manhunter is going to show up. And
Man of Steel does not end with a guy we've never met before showing up and telling us his name.
Basically, Superman and
That
the
was
same
a
guy
terrible scene.
By the way.
Hey, by the way, I'm an alien. I haven't interacted with any of these past alien invasions that have been going on, but I've been here. They call me the Martian Man. See ya. See ya. End of the movie. What the hell was that? That was so unnecessary. It added nothing.
And honestly, I
Guys,
think
can
they
you
had
answer that? Because I'm laughing, but he's got a point. How on earth was that supposed to get us excited? Unless we know what that means, right? Unless we read the comic books.
Because
from a movie standpoint.
it comes right after the scene where he walks into Wayne Manor and he looks at the big open room and says, "Oh, we'll put a big round table with 6 chairs," and then it's like, "Oh, or more, with room for more."
You guys
And
did a real
then-
good job fighting that guy. I wish I had helped out, but I was too busy eating a sandwich. I'm the Martian Manhunter.
Well,
Bye.
he was too
Well,
busy.
we
He was
also
too busy
saw
playing
him-
Martha Kent, right? That's what he was too
Yeah,
busy
we saw-
doing.
we
Yeah.
saw him
I still don't know
earlier.
why he was Martha Kent. I don't get it.
Well,
He's trying to trigger Lois Lane or something.
honestly, I think he
pregnant?
introduced himself as Martian Manhunter at the very end, so we would have an idea of what that was supposed to be, because that did not look like.
Just don't say
the
it.
damn
And if
Martian
you're, wait, hold on.
Manhunter.
If you're Batman, aren't you kind of nervous when there's a guy named Martian Manhunter like introducing himself in your backyard?
Wait. First of all,
Is he
do
a
people
threat?
live
What
on
is this?
Mars?
Oh, good
and
to
are they
know.
killing people up
Well, that's
there?
what they said.
That's a
He
lot
said,
of questions.
They call me. He said, they call me.
By the way, they call me Krog, murderer of
but
men. See ya.
I'm
Wait,
not-
what?
but I-
What on earth?
I
Look,
want to go
homie
back to Kobe and Dylan.
Zasdar.
Kobe and Dylan.
Horrible kidnapper of women.
I'm not trying to
Okay.
hate. Hold on, I'm not trying to hate, but that scene confused me because is that a villain? Who? If I know nothing about Martian Manhunter, if I don't know who this alien is, and he literally shows up to my backyard and says, "Yeah, my name is Manhunter." You can call me that. Good see you around, Bruce.
he's
I know who you
called
are.
me that.
I'm an
When he's
alien.
peered
Yeah, there's
through that-
aliens
here's
here.
why.
See ya.
Here's
the
why.
thing. Here's the thing.
Earlier, he was Martha Kent, and he
With
transformed back.
with
to-
Bruce
devil
Wayne
with
didn't see any
devil
of
eyes.
that.
Is he a bad guy?
No, but
Well,
we
and to
know
your
because he
point,
trained
though-
back to the general, and we know from the previous films, and then this is.
But we didn't see.
continuation, so-
But
Wait,
Bruce
let me
Wayne
jump
didn't
in here.
see
Let
that.
me jump in here
He
too.
didn't see that
because
scene.
here's the thing: is that throughout this entire movie, Batman is putting his trust in people with superpowers that he doesn't know if they're actually good or not. That's how he assembles the entire team. He really doesn't know. The only one he knows here is Wonder Woman, who and BVS drops in and randomly helps him. So he's like, okay, she's probably on my side. And with Superman, obviously, he knows where he's coming from. But when
But
it
he
comes
was
to
doubting
Flash-
Superman at the beginning, and he learned his
Exactly. And with Flash and Cyborg and Aquaman, when he encounters them, he doesn't really know. He just knows they're superpowered, and he's like, well, there's this world-ending threat coming. I need to assemble a team, and I just need to trust that they're going to be good. And it's really the same thing with Martian Manhunter, where he doesn't have any reason to believe that he's evil or bad. And also he already has a team of Superman and other people where if, let's say, Martian Manhunter turns out to be evil, he doesn't have any reason to fear at that moment for his life or anything, because he already has the Justice League assembled as well.
In the DC universe, Bruce Wayne is supposed to be the world's greatest detective. All right. He was there when that portal opened to Darkseid's world, and he saw all those minions lined up behind him, all those weird-looking alien creatures, right? So this weird-looking alien creature shows up on his doorstep saying, hey, I'm with you. I think I can help. They call me the Martian Manhunter. Why does he automatically assume, oh, I can trust him? He says he's a good guy.
But who's to say that he's not going to do more research or like do all of that due diligence later? Like,
can I cut in? Can I cut in here? Look, I think it doesn't matter if the scene makes sense from a logistical standpoint. Look at the great movies of all time. Look at their endings. It's Chinatown, Jake. Play it again, Sam. Okay? The end of the movie is your chance to make a statement to the audience. This is what the movie was about. This is what I want you to take home. By the way, They Call Me the Martian Manhunter roll credits is a terrible ending to a movie.
But if
that was somewhere else. The thesis statement is, by the way, there's an alien guy who's been walking
it speaks to the point of the movie, which is it's all just fan service. This is, you call it a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece.
No, because
that's what it is.
A huge conversation piece for the first movie when that was, and talking about the Justice League and Unite the Seven, they were like, where's Martian Manhunter? Like, Martian Manhunter's a huge part of the Justice League and he's nowhere to be found. And it would have been revealed.
I never said that watching any of those movies. And most people don't care who the Martian Manhunter is.
But
yes,
I mean, I'm
DC
so
fans
confused.
might have wanted to see him.
I mean, like, there's Hawkman. There's a ton of people who are in the. It depends what version, right? There's so many members of the Justice League.
The idea
Green
that
Lantern
I watch
should
a
be in it.
4-hour movie and the ending, the ending of the movie is here's a green alien man, see a Batman. It's a comedy. It's comical. The idea that I'm supposed to look at this as a great film, like one of the great films of all time.
So
this
all right,
was a cartoon schlock meant to sell action figures.
All right,
I don't know why they gave it a budget and whatever this is.
We're gonna.
HBO Max
I want to gather your
shenanigans.
closing arguments here, and I'm still hung up on at this point here. This is the biggest point where I'm just like, why was this worth it aside from fan service? And is this fan service worth it? Because most people answer this, well, yeah, it's worth it because Zach got to get his vision and this was an honor of his daughter, all of those things, but you can't use those here. I want to focus on the movie itself. If you take away the emotional impact of Zack Snyder and what he was able to do, which might be unfair, but sorry, it's my show, so get the hell out of here. As a movie, if you're looking at this as an alien who's watched this movie and doesn't know any of the backstory, just puts the movie on and streams it for the first time, was it worthy? That's what I want to do in these final thoughts. So gather your little quick thoughts. Thank you, Bad Coyote Funky, for becoming a member. Almighty Mike, doesn't the Flash running back in time in this movie and breaking his rule, taking away steam from Flashpoint? Why is the rule so important? Why haven't we seen the ramifications of breaking that rule? Good point. I liked that ending, I'll be honest. I thought it was he went back a little bit. It sort of teases the idea of how far.
I wanted him to set that up.
Yeah.
If they had set up that moment, it would have been so much more impactful, where they're like, how fast can you run? And he goes, well, I theoretically could run faster than the speed of light, but it might kill me.
Yeah,
a line like that would have been like, oh my God, he's risking everything.
But I've seen enough
when I mess with time.
Yeah, well, I've seen enough Flash that I sort of forgave it.
Stake.
I've seen enough Flash that I sort of forgave it, and they fast forwarded like he's a Flash that knows what he's doing, so I gave it a pass.
I wanted him to die.
But you're not wrong.
I think the Flash should have died.
That would have been great. Nicholas Clark.
Either that or run his legs off.
Vito, this was for you. Nicholas Clark says, I didn't want a Jar Jar Binks of Star Wars. I wanted a Peter of Deadpool. I don't remember where that was coming from.
Peter of Deadpool.
Peter's the guy with the mustache.
Yeah, I remember Peter, but I don't remember I don't know.
Oh, he's like Buddy. His what's his name? That actor. Who bombs trains?
Yes, I think so. Right.
T.J. Miller.
T.J. Miller.
And then
notorious domestic terrorist.
Thank you guys for that. All right, so closing arguments. We will start. I'll let the haters go first. Ian and Vito go ahead. Whoever wants to go first of the closing arguments here, and then it was Hosea. If you're working on the after the near the end of these closing arguments, you can throw that link up for everybody. But everybody, based on the arguments, based on what you heard here in the conversation, not your personal opinion of the movie or Zack Snyder, was this movie worthy? Let's hear the closing arguments, and we'll put the poll up. So again, I want you to focus on, was this worthy? Now that we've gone through an hour back and forth, why was this not worthy, Ian? Ian and Vio, why was this not worthy?
I'll take this one for the first part of it.
Yeah.
I don't think it was worthy because something that Video just said, I think, a minute ago. How do you think of this as a film? You know, as a, I'm not going to call it a vanity project because that's getting in, you know, with the Zack Snyder thing, but it's an interesting opportunity. The fans heard about this. They wanted to see it. They petitioned HBO Max, funded it, Warner Brothers, they put it out. So now it's here. It doesn't play like a film. It's cut up into these weird chapters. You get the feeling that, because initially they were going to release it, there was talk of it as a miniseries, but they still have these chapter breaks, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in terms of it being a film. The narrative is all over the place. It's not a coherent vision. It is more movie. There's more stuff going on. But if you look at other, you know, even DC films that are long, that have epic scope and a lot of characters, they're handled in a way that feels really thought out. This still feels like it's cobbled together. I don't think it's as entertaining as the Whedon cut, because the Whedon cut is so bad that you can at least laugh your way through it at how little it makes sense, how the CGI, you know, mustache replacement is awful. This is just a dour, dead, soulless cash grab of an experience that I think is going to get swept aside 5 years from now when we've got a newly established DC universe. If you talk about whether it was worth it, you look at, they've already got a new Batman. There's a movie that's almost done being filmed and it's going to come out. It's got a whole new Batman. You've got a Flash movie that is in question because Ezra Miller's going around the world beating up fans. You know, who knows? and we also had the COVID gap year. So by the time any of these other sequels come out, you know, Marvel is going to be into phase 7 and DC is still going to try and figure out how it's getting its act together. So this is a curiosity. And I guess for the fans who wanted to see it, yeah, they got what they wanted. But for me, sitting through 4 hours of something that left me emotionally at the exact same spot as the previous 2 hours I spent, you know, 3 years ago, it wasn't worth it.
Vito?
Except for this conversation.
Yeah, well, this conversation has made it all worth it. And frankly, the nonsense that'll come out of this ridiculous movie for years to come will continue to entertain me. I have to look at this from a couple different perspectives. One of which is people are going to say, well, this vindicates Zack Snyder because it shows that if Zack Snyder had been allowed to do what he wanted to do, it would have been a more cohesive movie. The movie's 4 hours long. They were never going to let him release a 4-hour movie in the theaters. So this does not really prove anything to anyone other than, yeah, if you give somebody 4 hours to put every single piece of footage they got into a project, theoretically some characters might get expanded upon. But this does not vindicate the idea that Zack Snyder had the right direction for the DC universe, unless the DC universe was going to be a series of 4-hour movies, which I doubt Warner Brothers would have wanted, or if that would have been a good idea whatsoever. I have to look at this as a film disconnected from what I know about Batman or DC universe or whatever. I mean, go show this to somebody who has rudimentary knowledge of these characters. I'm not going to say no knowledge, but okay, they know Batman. Maybe they saw Man of Steel. They saw Batman, whatever. But they have no meaningful attachment to the DC canon. They don't know what a Martian Manhunter is. When the Joker in the whatever is talking about, I killed Robin. I don't know. This movie does not stand alone. This is a big piece of expensive fan fiction made for diehard DC fans who are going to eat it up, and as well they should. But should we be blowing insane amounts of money on making content that is only going to appeal to a narrow subsection of specific genre fans? This is not a movie meant for a general audience. It does not work for a general audience. And I understand if you're a big hardcore DC fan, it's awesome to see stuff that you know and love getting this Hollywood treatment. But it's not feasible from any financial standpoint. It makes perfect sense why they ripped this thing away from Zack Snyder for trying to do all this nonsense. And ultimately, it's a mess. I'm sure it appeals to all of you out there who love seeing little Easter eggs of things that you know and you love and references to other comics and whatever else. But for the general movie audience or a guy like me who I like Batman and I've read some Batman comics, but I couldn't tell you what an anti-life equation is and I don't really care all that much. This movie does nothing for me. It is a farce.
Okay, other side. Let's hear your stuff. Whoever, Dylan or Kobe, whoever wants to start, can go ahead. And the final thoughts. Here we go.
I think it was absolutely worth it and worthy to be on the journey from Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, knowing that this was going to come and have it ripped away from us and never able to see what was supposed to be. To see this play out is years in the making, and it was absolutely worth it and worthy. Now on the film itself, to give Superman a proper rebirth, that was so blown over in the theatrical release. It was insulting. So now here to have a moment where the greatest superhero of all time is coming back to life that moment when he's out in space and the sun is hitting him, that alone is worth it. To see the pregnancy test in Lois's desk, amazing. To see the nightmare scenes play out, to see Darkseid, it was awesome. So I'm just coming from a straight fan. To have adult themes, yes, adult themes. To see this comic book genre be treated with gravitas and have a weight to it and like stakes involved. I just thought it was an amazing film. It was phenomenal. It would have been even better in a theater, cut down slightly, and in the true vision that Zack Snyder wanted us to enjoy it as, and with room to grow, and looking forward to everything else that DC has to offer, and God willing, we'll get to see it.
Kobe?
So this might be surprising to everyone, but Vito, I will kind of agree with you on one thing that you said in your closing statement, which is
not the time to do that, Kobe, but okay.
No,
Give away the plot.
No, listen.
Go ahead.
Don't interrupt. So I think that one of the challenges with Zack Snyder's movies is that he really has so much footage on the docket, right? And that's why with BVS, the Ultimate Edition, everyone noticed like, wow, the BVS Ultimate Edition is way better than the theatrical cut. I will concede that if this film was in theaters and Warner Brothers was trying to get it down to 2.5 hours, it might have been really tough for this film to be as good as it was. But
they wanted it to be 2 hours. Sorry, go on.
Exactly. So imagine if we tried to condense this 4-hour picture that we just watched into 2 hours, that would have been tough to do. But the reality is we didn't get that. We got the 4-hour thing. And we really got to see, once again, all the character moments with Cyborg and the Flash and these other characters were phenomenal. They were so good and so much better than the theatrical cut. Moreover, you talked about appealing to general audiences. I think that is the problem. Not every movie needs to appeal to every single audience member. That is the Hollywood playbook tactic, which people are moving away from now. That's the whole idea with the streaming services, that we can appeal more towards niche audiences, and we don't need to appeal to every single audience member with all these jokes and trying to basically turn every superhero movie into a Marvel movie. And the whole idea is that, oh, well, we have enough jokes to appeal to comedy fans, and it's lighthearted and it's not mature enough, so nobody gets decapitated. But it's like, no, decapitate Steppenwolf. That's badass.
Hell yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? I think that with this film, we got our DC's Lord of the Rings. This is one of the top 5 best comic movies ever made. It is epic on every scale, and it has a lot of heart to it. It's just amazing.
Going back to what Vito said about financially makes sense. Joss Whedon's Justice League made $645 million, and it was shit. So had they allowed this movie to be in theaters, it's making at least that. And for the Warner Brothers execs to be pissed off that it's not making 1.5 billion and it's only going to make 750 million, that's short-sighted. And we know they pushed him out and rushed it out so they could get their bonuses before the year is up.
Can I challenge the idea?
Hold on. No, Vito, I got you. Go ahead.
Okay.
That's it. We're done.
Oh, I didn't finish my statement.
No,
sorry. I thought you were done. Go ahead, Kobe. Go.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, no. I mean that. Yeah, that's fine. No, that was pretty much it.
You sure?
We're good. Yeah.
I thought you were wrapping up. That's why
I was just gonna say one last note. I will say that a lot of what I heard in terms of the critiques of the film were about other things not related to the film itself. Like one thing that repeatedly came up was that, oh, well, we're not going to get a sequel, so why did we tease Darkseid, and why was Darkseid in the movie? It's like, that's besides the point. We're analyzing the film as a 4-hour and 2-minute film, and as a standalone picture, it was phenomenal, and that's really where it falls for me.
There we go, an official bell. All right, and Isaiah, thank you for putting the link out. There's a straw poll out there. You guys will vote to see if you guys disagree. Here's my thoughts. You can wait a second to hear my thoughts if you like. I'll re-vote or so on. First of all, I want to give a round of applause. Very fun conversation. I thought very
Thank
civil.
You, everyone.
We didn't get too mean. I actually was nice to see
I love
a
you
nice
guys.
civil fight up. This is a topic that typically gets way more ugly or even gross. So I applaud all of you for keeping it nice and fair.
Thank you.
So thank you, everybody. That was a wonderful conversation. All right, so here's based on the arguments. As I was listening, and I took a lot of notes. I was really listening. If I always have the trouble of trying to read my notes afterwards because I do it quickly as I'm following. Here's my problem. Okay, yes. Was it worth it to fans? Sure. Was it worth it to everybody? I didn't hear that argument strong enough, and because all I heard was it's phenomenal and amazing, and because we got to see Dark Side and the pregnancy test and Nightmare, and the problem is that wasn't for everybody. It was all the things you kept labeling were fan things, and then you talk about it was amazing and had heart, but you never. I mean, I guess we talked about Cyborg was the heart, but I never really thought we got more into why the film itself was better. I think you couldn't sell me on why it did feel cobbled together, I think, for a lot of people. The other thing I want to, because Vito, I know you were going to say this, and I was ready to say it for you. You can't say if we released this movie in theaters, it would have made more money. No, it actually would have made less because it would have taken up 2 showtimes of a movie theater time. Movie theaters, when you appeal to a mass audience, you're also appealing to the theater community who has to make money on the 2-hour windows that they sort of put movies into. And so to put a 4-hour movie in actually usually makes the theater and the movie in the studio itself less money. It's why the studio was saying, give me 2 hours, because 3-hour movies, et cetera, always make them keep their auditoriums, longer. So it wouldn't have made money if they released a 4-hour cut. I think it would have been a detriment to the movie for sure. It might have done better slightly or whatever, but who knows? We don't know, so it's hard to say what would have happened. But I think it's easy to make the other argument the other way. So I can't let that one be what it is. So that's what it is. It's a lot of conjecture. The 4-to-3 ratio didn't matter. That's not an issue. You did agree that there was more character depth, so that gives it a plus. At the same time, there were some gives. You see, we could have saw a brighter Cyborg. Yeah, we could have trimmed a little bit. That didn't help. You agreed it was cliche town at one point. None of that agreements helped. Overall, I just think
you gotta let people make some concessions.
Sure, no, and I appreciate you did, but at the end of the day, I was trying to get more of the why, and again, the why was for the fan service. So where I'm stuck is, yes, absolutely worth it for the comic fans, for the superhero fans who like Zach's movie, but clearly not all the superhero fans thought this was the best movie of all time, and I was trying to figure out why it was the best 5. I'm still stuck. I want to keep this conversation going, so if you're watching live, don't go anywhere. We're going to make a members-only talk where I'm going to get more involved, and if you guys can stick around for a little bit more, I have some questions I want to push further, but so far, based on this long discussion, I can't... Look, it's like, why do we make movies for commercial appeal? It's a good question you asked, Kobe, but I mean, Joker wasn't made for commercial appeal, and we weren't looking for quips in that movie, and it did really well. And so it's like, my point is like, it's not that we're asking for jokes. I think we're just looking for a more cohesive, tighter story that sort of we feel for the characters. And I think Vito made a really strong argument early on, and Ian helped it as well. Like, we would feel more for these characters if they actually gave them a proper origin beforehand versus just trying to rush through the 15-minute version that then gives us more time to watch more slow-mo. I think it was a valid argument as to why I had trouble with it too. So well said, Vito. Ultimately, at the end of the day, my vote is that no, based on these arguments, it was not worthy. However, the vote on the poll can overrule
Does
me.
not count. That vote doesn't count.
I knew it.
Check the poll.
I won.
So my vote was that it doesn't, but now let's go check the poll. As I imagine, people on the poll never.
I think we lost.
They
with
never.
the poll.
They never vote. They never vote with.
You guys are winning in the
unbiased.
poll right now.
So I give it a vote.
Me and Ian?
Yeah, Vito and Ian are winning by
Thank
3
God.
votes.
Look, I want to bring up a point
my
you
vote
made.
counts, so I just voted for it. Let's see what happens here. I haven't seen the results. We're going to it right now. Here we go.
Are you giving the results right now?
We got to give everyone more time to vote.
Yeah, give them more time to vote.
It's a 3-vote margin.
Okay, hold on. So I won't show it.
Let me bring. Can I make a point real quick,
Sure.
Andy?
So and now that you've heard, hold on. Now that you've heard my thoughts, take them as you will or not. But again, based on the arguments, it's important. It's a close vote. You guys need to go help me. If you want to overrule what I just said, hated it or loved it, now you got to go in there and tell it.
Now you got to go vote.
I'm going to
Make
put
sure to
a
vote.
1-minute clock. Okay, setting a 1-minute
right.
clock.
1 minute?
So yeah, 1-minute clock. If you want
I
to
want
get
to
in there
say one
quickly,
thing. You
go ahead,
brought up
Vito.
Lord of the Rings.
None of this
as we're
matters,
talking-
Vito. But go ahead.
Right, we're talking about the idea that you can have niche genre, things that don't appeal to all audiences. But then I think you kind of defeated your point by bringing up Lord of the Rings, which I think is a perfect example of the idea that you can take these genres which aren't normally popular, something like high fantasy, Tolkien fantasy, and make it something that has mass appeal. I think Zack Snyder didn't go that way. I think he stayed too close to making it something for the fans to the detriment of the general audience who is going to be left mystified by a lot of this stuff. I just don't think they're going to follow
In that
it.
end, when Darkseid was like walking through his hall with all those people, I got such a sense that this was beyond a comic book film. That's when
Yeah.
it hit me that like, feeling more like Game of Thrones. Like this could really be like an HBO series where it's like legit.
See, and you're right. If he had made this as a series, I would have been with you. He should have made BVS as a series as well, because BVS had way too many plots that didn't fit that movie, and the Ultimate Cut helped a little bit. But honestly, he needed a 4-hour version of that one too. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
I thought the Ultimate
I still don't understand Lex Luthor's plan.
Yeah,
I don't think.
it's so
I think anybody who
stupid.
claims
It's
that they
so
do is
stupid.
lying.
Lex Luthor ruins that movie so badly.
Why does he have special Lex Luthor bullets?
All right,
Just
all right.
Buy
Time is
regular
up.
bullets.
Here we go.
Sheer vanity.
Here we go. The poll is in. Let's refresh
Did he
this
wanna get
live.
caught?
We are refreshing this live. The poll is up. Let's see if I refresh it. The final vote will be the
That doesn't count. I forgot to vote.
See, voting matters. Look at that.
I should have voted.
106 votes, and
Nonsense.
wow, it was winning. And at
Nonsense.
the end of the day, I voted because the judge gets to put his vote in.
Oh, we won.
And,
Wait, we
wow.
won. Oh,
Dylan and Kobe won by 2 votes. There you go. Just like the Snyder Cut getting released. The underdogs won. The surprise to us all. There you go. A fitting ending for this fight. So that at the end of the day, the fans and the voters who watched overruled me and say yes, it was worth it. That's how the show works. I like that. It
Zack
gives it more
Snyder's
fun.
mom is voting. She stuffed
You know,
the
and
polls.
here's what I have to say to that.
Booyah.
There it is. A booyah. A booyah comes
Andy,
in there.
If we talk further, can we talk about like the behind the scenes?
I want to get on. And I have been sitting quiet. I'm going to talk so much. If you guys aren't a member, make sure you hit that join because you'll be able to get the whole lot, or at least subscribe if you haven't. Smash that like button down below, all that stuff, so you can help join the Popcorn Planeteers. I saw a few just signed up. We're going to give them so much love on the VIP stream. So if you're watching live, don't go anywhere. We're not going anywhere.
Can we give a plug before you switch
I'm
over?
not. I was Jesus. You want to host the show, Vito?
I want a plug.
Oh my God, plugs! I'm gonna go all the way around. Dylan Landon live. You get to go first since you guys won. Dylan, what'd you like to plug?
Oh, appreciate that. Well, guys, I'm hosting a show called Self-Made. It's basically like a online music competition trying to find the best self-made artists. So that's all this week on Live by Live, LiveX Live on social media, and Self-Made. I'm at Dylan Landon Live. Hit me up all over. I host live streams. I produce Impulsive. So see you guys there twice a week. And other than that, thanks for having me.
His link is in the description. Everybody's links in the description. Kobe, what would you like to plug?
Yeah, just check me out on Twitter and YouTube. My ad is the same everywhere. It is Slickmoff, SLCMOF. I just passed 80,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Congrats,
so super excited
man.
about that. Thank you.
Beautiful.
And also follow me on Twitter. Definitely don't have 80,000 followers on Twitter. Hate that platform. But I do tweet regularly. So check me out there. Once again, that is Slickmoff, SLCMOF.
Check them out. Their Twitter links are on there because that's the best way. It gives you links to all their stuff. So go follow them and then follow their bio links to go support. Ian, thank you for coming. Great show. Ian, anything you would like to plug?
Yeah, I'm Ian Simmons. I run Kicking the Seat, which you can find at kickseat.com. I also have the Kicking the Seat YouTube channel. So it's a a very, very small channel compared to some of my guests here, or my fellow guests. So yeah, would love to get some subscriptions going there, and we host regular live streams on Fridays about the Marvel Disney shows. So we just started one on Winter Soldier, or Falcon and Winter Soldier, so check that out. Love to have you, and thank you also for the opportunity to have this awesome discussion. It was a lot of fun, even though we were robbed in the end.
It happens. I've been there. No, but well, good job, Vito. We all know where to find you, YouTube/Vito. But go ahead, Vito, what do you want to mention?
What are you going to do? My plug for me?
Yeah,
Come on.
come on.
Let me sell it a little bit. Look, if you want some real movie talk, if you want any of these punks telling you this is the greatest God's gift creation, if you want some real movie discussion and other nonsense, I don't know what I make. Look, youtube.com/Vito. We got what you need. We got what you want. Come on by. Do it. Do it.
There we go. Give you a do it. Oh, there you go. Well, yeah, subscribe to all these amazing people. What a great show. I had a few when I have a newbies, and I'm a little worried, but I went and saw some of their work. I knew they would be good. You guys did not disappoint. So thank you, Dylan and Kobe and Ian. Welcome back anytime. Always happy to return the favor. Hit me up. I appreciate you guys being here. We are not done though. So if you aren't watching, if you're watching the replay, again, hit that join button. And thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned for more. If you're watching live, don't go anywhere. We're gonna get more into this. I got some stuff I want to say.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, indeed.